other ways that we could change the culture is by understanding the three pillars of consent. So if somebody can't stand up, right? If somebody's too drunk to stand up or they're stumbling, it doesn't matter what they say. The answer is no, because they're not totally conscious, right? If they're slurring their words, say drugs or alcohol may be involved, and that always removes consent. And then we have if you don't get a yes. So what this means is for a lot of our lives, or maybe I'm a little bit older than you, so for a lot of my life, I heard no means no, right? But that really puts the onus on the victim, right, of saying no. But what this is saying is that if you don't get a yes, then it's a no, right? So it's no yes means no. Does that make sense? So if the answer is no, right, there's no consent. But what if somebody's pressuring, right? Which happens a lot. Just know that even if somebody is pressuring you and you do something that you don't want, it's not your fault. Learn to trust your gut if you feel like you're unsafe. Have a code word with a friend. So the example that I always like to give is, for example, I'm at a party, and I mean, always go to a party with at least one other person. So like I'll tell my friend, like if I pull on my earring, come get me out, or whatever like situation I'm in, right? And it's not a code word, but it is a code sign of like help me, right? Know that it's okay to lie. I feel like you know that. Think about escape route. When you're entering a space that you haven't been before, just make sure that you know where your exits are, just basic safety, and then make your boundaries clear. Do you guys know what boundaries are? Anybody define it for me?
Boundaries are it's like someone asking you to not do that which you're doing something for.
Exactly. There you go. So boundaries. What are boundaries? We have two types of boundaries. We have physical boundaries and emotional boundaries. So what is a physical boundary? Can anybody give me an example of it? Yeah.
Someone not wanting to be touched.
Exactly, right? The way that I teach this to elementary school is you have a personal bubble and you don't want anybody to, cross that personal bubble. That's a physical boundary. So physical boundaries refer to what you feel, to what you feel comfortable doing with your body or having done to your body. Some examples are people not liking having their hair touched, or having an arm around their shoulder, whatever, right? Those kind of things. And then we also have emotional boundaries. Can anybody give me an example of an emotional boundary? Yeah.
No screaming or yelling.
That's a really good one, right? So emotional boundaries are corresponding to emotional availability and responsibility for one's feelings. Another emotional boundary that I hear a lot with the younger kids is if you want to do something really hard, you don't necessarily want your friends talking about it, right? So that's an emotional boundary for you. So, when is the best time to establish a boundary?
When you've established a relationship with someone, like in friendship or in like whatever.
Yeah, so the best time is at the beginning of the friendship or relationship, right? If you can't or you didn't establish a boundary at the beginning of the relationship, obviously you can establish it at any time, right? Because we also have to understand that we're human beings and our boundaries change as we get more comfortable with people, and also our boundaries change as we change, right? So it's not always possible to be friends with somebody and just straight out tell them these are their boundaries and not have to change. The important thing to remember is that communication is key in all your relationships, friendships, whatever. Constantly be communicating your boundaries and how they're changing, and expect that of the other person as well. Some risk factors. These are things that increase our chances of sexual assault and harassment. because you're engaging doesn't mean that it's your fault, ever, if something happens, right? So the biggest risk factors that we see, alcohol. This is a big one. Most sexual harassment and assaults in college happen around alcohol. Again, that's to say, not just because you're drinking, you're gonna get assaulted, and even if you're drinking, it's not your fault if you get assaulted. Does that make sense? That goes hand in hand with take-grade drugs. Things like GHB, Molly, Rohypnol, all those kind of things, right? A lot of these drugs are really easy to disguise in alcohol, so if you're at a party, don't ever leave your drink unattended. And if you do, please go get a new one, because you don't know who touched it. And also, it's good for you guys to know that there are a lot of over-the-counter drugs that mimic these effects. So things like cough syrup, Benadryl, those kind of things. And then finally, isolated areas. Now, because you are on a college campus, you will come across some isolated areas from time to time, even outside of your campus. But again, nobody expects you to never be in an isolated area by yourself. But best practice is try to stay in well-lit areas, and if not, at least with one friend. So we're gonna hard pivot again. Now that we talked about risk factors, we're gonna talk about domestic violence. There are two categories of domestic violence, right? We have intimate partner dating violence. These are people that you are dating, but you are not married to or related to. And then we have family violence, which are people that either you're married to or related to. So what are some things to know about intimate partner violence? There's no typical victim. We have seen every type of victim, literally every age, race, color, gender, everything. 67% of teen dating abuse victims never tell anyone about it. This still applies to you guys, but not as much. Just know that a lot of it goes unreported. Victims of intimate violence lose a total of 8 million days of paid work, and victims can be of any gender. So what are some forms of domestic violence? We have physical abuse, psychological, sexual, and stalking. Do you guys know what all of this means? Yeah? We're gonna talk a little bit more about stalking. So, abusers use stalking to intimidate and control their victims, right? Stalking isn't like in the movies that is like literally somebody following you to your door. I mean, it can be, but it can also be a ton of other things, right? It can be threats, unwanted contact via calls, texts, emails, showing up randomly at public or private locations, damage to personal property, and repeated unwanted gift giving. So out of all of these, the one that doesn't get recognized as stalking as much is the unrepeated unwanted gift. So what to do in a stalking situation? Keep evidence, right? Keep receipts of everything, get a new phone number to minimize contact, take down your personal information from any public website that disclose all your social media, and seek help from the police, your school, victims, and all that kind of stuff, right? Stalking is a crime. You can go to the police, file a police report to get a order of protection. Right, so some red flags of abuse. This slide is really important because even if it doesn't, hopefully, it'll never apply to you directly. But these are some things that you can look for in your friends, family, whatever, so that you're like aware, right? That these are some red flags. Checking up with text calls and not just to say hi. So it's a little bit more controlling, right? It's like asking where you are all the time, right? Criticizing how you look, dress, or how much you weigh, right? These are ways to control somebody. Threatening to share embarrassing pictures or personal information. This is blackmail. Claiming they can't live without you, right? That's really codependent. Resentful behavior for spending time with your friends or family. They want to isolate, right? Pressuring sexual activity, sexual harassment and assault, excessive jealousy, and belittling and denying responsibility. now that we talked about all the unhealthy parts of relationships, let's talk about some healthy parts of relationships, right? This list is not extensive, I'm gonna ask you guys to add a few at the end, but these are things that we know go into a healthy relationship. Respect, care, safety, protection, honesty, support, equality, nurture, and to be able to communicate with one another. Can you guys give me at least one other sign of a healthy relationship or friendship? No? Yeah.
Communication.
Yeah. Perfect. So what are some resources on your college campus to help you if you ever feel like, or if anything ever happens? So we have Title IX. Anybody know what Title IX is? Just shake your head or nod or whatever. Yeah. Right. So Title IX is a law that prohibits discrimination based on gender. Well, based on sex. So under Title IX, discrimination on the basis of sex can include sexual harassment, sexual violence, sexual rape, sexual assault, sexual battery, and sexual coercion. Right, so you guys are protected by law, obviously. If you ever feel like you are the victim of a discrimination. These are your 5 towns coordinators your Title IX coordinators at Towns College. Take a look at them. I don't know if you guys know who all these people are or, but yeah, you have a lot of them. This information also on the school website, if you ever feel like you need to access it. You go to any of these people if you feel like your Title IX rights have been violated, and they will help you go through the process of filing a Title IX complaint. Let's talk about the difference between privacy and confidentiality. So confidentiality is so this is when somebody is not required by law to report known incidents. So this is doctors under HIPAA and lawyers, that kind of thing, right? Like you can tell them anything and they will not tell anybody else. But then you have privacy. So when somebody can't offer you confidentiality, like your Title IX coordinators, they will offer you privacy, which means that they will do their absolute best to divulge the least amount of information about you as possible to keep you private. Confidential reporting sources at 5 towns. You have the counseling service, you have your 2 counselors. There are also obviously some resources off campus. We are a confidential resource outside of campus. If you ever call us, we will keep your information confidential. Do you guys know what the Enough is Enough law is? No? So Enough is Enough is a law that applies to New York State college campuses specifically. It doesn't matter if it's part of the republic. The law requires New York State colleges and universities to have a comprehensive procedure and guideline to address sexual violence. That means that every school in this state that you go to has the same definition of sexual violence. Again, a uniform definition of affirmative consent. It doesn't matter what school you go to, there's a uniform definition of affirmative consent. A statewide amnesty policy. What this means is, let's say you go to a party and you're underage, and you're drinking, and when you're drinking, which is not legal when you're underage, you see somebody harassing or assaulting, a student harassing or assaulting another student. You can go report it to campus safety and also your Title IX coordinators, and because of Enough is Enough, you won't get in trouble for the thing that you were doing, right? As long as you're reporting it to campus, to somebody else. And then you have expanded access to law enforcement, which means that there's law enforcement present on your campuses to keep you safe. So these are, again, some outside resources that you guys have access to in case you ever need them, in case you're ever the victim or somebody that you know is victim to a crime. We have us, we have the Gay Lesbian and Violence, we have domestic violence, Office of Victim Services, the police, domestic violence resources. If you guys want this slide after, I'll make sure that you have it. So what can you do to prevent sexual assault? Educate yourself on dating violence, show your dating partner respect, be an ally for, I swear I have changed this slide from time to time. Be an ally to any marginalized community. Be a good role model, connect with support systems and communication and appreciation for other relationships, right? So what if there is a crime, or not even a crime, right? What if there's something happening in front of you and you can tell it's something that happened? Do you guys know what a bystander is? Can anybody give me a quick definition?
A person that witnessed the crime.
Exactly. It doesn't necessarily have to be a crime, but a person that is witnessing something going on, right? So there are 3 ways that we can be active bystanders, right? So not just witnessing, but actually helping. We have direct. So this bystander will literally stand in direct intervention, right? So what this means is if I'm here and the person that is making me uncomfortable is right in front of me, somebody will actually step in the middle of us two, right? That is direct intervention, creating space. Then you have distract. So the bystander distracts the perpetrator in some way. So the example that I give high school, which it's probably still relevant to you guys, is let's say I am in class and the teacher gives out all of our grades back on our test, right? And I don't really like to share my grades. I feel like it should be like a personal thing, right? But there's like one student behind me that's like pestering me, right? Like, what grade did you get? What grade did you get? And instead of somebody, calling their attention and be like, hey, stop asking, somebody starts asking them about something else, so that they lose focus on me and they start talking about something else, right? That's a distraction. And finally, we have delegates. So this bystander delegates by getting help from peers or other people. So what this looks like is you're all outside, playing, whatever, chilling, and somebody gets hurt. So what tends to happen when there's a lot of bystanders is that nobody will do anything. This is called a bystander. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but nobody will do anything. Because everybody's thinking, well, there's somebody more equipped to deal with the situation than I am. So everybody will just sort of be at a standstill. In order to be an active bystander, you can be the person that steps up and starts delegating tasks, right? Like you'll tell one friend, like, call 911, and you'll tell the other friend, go get a nurse or a teacher or whatever, right? Like actually stepping up and delegating tasks. So, educate yourself on violence, show, where we go? Alright, so I have 3 examples, 3 scenarios, for you guys to sort of process and we can talk. So the first scenario is, you're with your friends at a party, when you notice a girl that clearly has had too much to drink. One of your friends makes a joke about how somebody should take advantage of such a good opportunity. How do you handle this situation? You just let it slide?
Yeah. I think he's trying to lean into it, see how comfortable he is and how comfortable everyone else is with that sort of behavior. And if he gets an okay or indifferent sort of reaction, I think he would do something else. So I would make it clear that I don't think that's funny and that's really weird. And maybe you should go
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, totally. So when I was talking about rape culture, and I talked about catcalling, right? This is sort of the same thing, right? Jokes. Jokes are a really easy way to test the temperature of the group to see how apathetic they are to this kind of thing. But also guys know that like jokes aren't totally jokes all the time, right? Like you have to be thinking of something for it to joke about. So definitely, if something like this does come up, take it seriously. Talk to your friend. Say like that's really not cool, and like I'm really worried that you're joking about something like that because it's true. And if you happen to know the person, in this case the girl, that has had too much to drink, maybe go take care of her because this person is not the only one thinking, right? So another one, you're walking by the common area and someone from one of your classes that you barely know approaches you and they put their hand around your shoulder. You politely take the arm off and they put it right back, right? How do you handle this situation?
I don't actually know.
No?
Feel
I freeze up.
Yeah, yeah. You guys are not the raise your hand here.
I tell them probably to back off and walk away.
Yeah.
If they still follow me, I'll try to find someone else I know. Okay, keep that person away from me.
Exactly. So you have to be verbal in establishing your boundaries because there's a lot of people that don't necessarily understand social cues, right? So for me, it's really obvious. If you take my arm off of your shoulder, you don't want it there. But for somebody that might not understand the same social cues that I do, you have to learn how to be like how to respond verbally and say like, I am uncomfortable with this, please stop. Because they clearly didn't get it with a non-verbal response, right? And then the last one, you hear a story around campus about a person getting drunk at a party and being sexually assaulted. Your friend's first instinct is to ask, well, why was this person assaulted? How do you handle this situation?
I ask you, what, is the person okay? Like, what else happened, like, has this been dealt with, is it, like, who, yeah, just like more details about, like, okay, what's going on, so I can figure this out, because you can't just drop that on the conversation.
Why was she so drunk, or why was she drinking? I would say because she's at a college party, and you're supposed to get drunk at a college party and
Yeah.
like not get raped.
Exactly.
Straight
So
up.
what you want to do is shift the victim blaming, right? And try to, like the best of your ability, obviously, educate on why victim blaming isn't the correct thing to do. Well, that's it for me, guys. Any questions, comments, concerns, anything you guys want to talk about that I didn't cover? No? You guys are good? Fantastic. You guys are so easy. Thank you.
Got lingo.
I came here from class.
I went to class.
strengthening self-confidence and strengthening the things. Well, in New York, the whole climate of the state is it's not that expensive. But it helps, like you get there eventually.
That's not my other question.
So, like,